Look, it's not just you. There's something seriously wrong with the job market right now, and I need you to understand how bad it's gotten. And what I'm seeing lately, I've never seen anything like it. The people reaching out to me aren't just burned out anymore, they're terrified. And honestly, they should be, because the rules have fundamentally changed. That safe career path that your parents told you about, the one where you had to put your head down, work hard, climb the ladder, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And if you're still operating like it does, you're walking into a trap. Let me show you just how bad things have gotten recently. I'm going to go through some videos here, and I want you to really pay attention to what's happening.
Layoff season is in full swing, and the latest company to do mass layoffs is HP. They are laying off approximately 10% of their workforce, which equals about 4,000 to 6,000 people before 2028. They are labeling this as AI-driven restructuring. This doesn't mean that people are getting replaced by AI and automation, but it does mean they're actually using AI to come up with a plan on how to restructure. If you are working at a Fortune 100 company, a Fortune 1000, basically a large enterprise company, you should expect to see some sort of restructuring happen over the next 6 to 18 months.
Okay, so HP is laying off 10% of their workforce. That's somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 people. And they're calling it AI-driven restructuring. They're betting that they can replace you with AI and a smaller team. Now, I worked for a Fortune 500 company. I know how these places operate. And here's what no one wants to tell you. Working at one of these massive, supposedly stable companies isn't safe anymore. It hasn't been for a while. The corporate playbook you were taught, it's outdated. Get a job at a big company, work there for 30 years, retire with a pension. That's dead. Look at the data. Microsoft laid off 6,000 workers in May. That's 3% of their total workforce. Intel, they cut 20% of people in July. 20%. These aren't struggling companies. They are some of the most profitable corporations in the world. And they're doing this because they can. Because they've realized that they can operate leaner, use AI to fill gaps, and the shareholders love it. So if you're still sitting there thinking, well, I'm at a Fortune 500 company, I'm safe, you're not. The biggest question you should be asking is, what am I building that's actually mine? What advantages do I have that can't be automated or restructured away? Okay, this one makes my blood boil.
Microsoft layoffs go harder. Termination effective immediately with no severance pay. This is insane. So Microsoft has initiated a wave of performance-based job cuts with affected employees losing their jobs effective immediately and receiving no severance packages, according to termination letters sent to staff. The termination letters obtained by Business Insider state that the employees are being let go because their job performance has not met minimum performance standards and expectations. Impacted workers face immediate removal of access to Microsoft systems, accounts, and buildings. Now, in a particularly strict measure, the company is discontinuing healthcare, prescription, and dental benefits for employees on their final days of work. That's terrible. 3 terminated employees confirmed that they would not receive severance payments, underscoring the company's more stringent approach to performance management. Microsoft went on to say, "You are all relieved of job duties effective immediately." In the termination letters, employees were to return all company property, including car keys, corporate American Express cards, and any Microsoft hardware or software in their possession. The letters also warned that the future employment applications to Microsoft will be evaluated considering past performance and basis of termination, potentially affecting former employees' chances of returning to the company.
Microsoft is laying people off effective immediately, no severance packages, and they're calling it performance-based. They're sending termination letters that basically say, you weren't good enough. You know what that is? It's a legal strategy to cut costs without having to pay out. They're using vague performance issues that aren't really specified, banking on the fact that you'll be too embarrassed to fight it. You cannot base your identity on your job title. You can't, because companies like this will let you go and then make it your fault. They'll make you feel like you failed when really you were just a line item on a spreadsheet. This is why I'm so passionate about what I teach. You need to build something of value on the side, something deeper than what some company decides you're worth on any given quarter. You need foundational advantages, skills, perspectives, capabilities that are yours, that you own, that can't be taken away in a termination letter. You already have these, but if you're worried about layoffs, you need to surface them. Own them and do something with them, not just sit around in fear. because they're betting you'll internalize this. They're betting you think I must not have been good enough. And that's exactly what they want you to think. Don't fall for it.
I come on here and cry a lot, but I've literally had the worst year of my life. Today I found out that my company is having layoffs, and luckily I didn't get laid off, but a lot of the people that I really cared about did, and the person I work under did. It also just makes me concerned for my own position because they're laying off people because of the economy and everything going on.
All right, Sarah here didn't get laid off, but a lot of people she cared about did. And look, if you've ever been through this, you know exactly what she's feeling. It's called survivor's guilt. You made it through this round, but everyone around you got cut. And now you're still wondering when it's your turn. Companies will lay off 3 people and then transfer all of those responsibilities to one person plus AI. Why? Because it costs them less. That's it. And that one person who survived, they're headed straight for burnout. Surviving one round of layoffs doesn't mean you're safe. It often means you're doing the job of 3 people for the same pay or less if you factor in inflation. This is why you have to treat your job like a temporary situation it actually is. I'm not saying don't care about work. I'm saying don't build your entire life or your entire identity, your entire financial security around something that can disappear in an email. Your company isn't loyal to you, no matter what they say. We need to stop pretending like they are. They make business decisions, and you're a business decision. So you need to start thinking like a business as well.
The American economy tonight, Amazon cutting 14,000 employees, pointing to artificial intelligence. And UPS says it will now lay off 48,000 workers. Here's Elizabeth Schulze.
Tonight, massive layoffs at the world's largest online retailer. Amazon slashing 14,000 corporate jobs, signaling more cuts to come as artificial intelligence dramatically reshapes the American workforce. In a note to employees, the retail giant writing, "The world is changing quickly. This generation of AI is the most transformative technology we've seen since the internet. We're convinced that we need to be organized more leanly." And just ahead of the busy holiday shopping season, UPS announcing 48,000 job cuts today too. Meta, Microsoft, Google, and Intel also announcing cuts earlier this year, pointing to AI's potential to perform tasks instead of humans.
Right now, the skills that AI does have, many of them are impacting white-collar workers more than blue-collar workers.
Today, I asked the CEO of NVIDIA, the world's most valuable company that makes computer chips powering AI, if this is just the beginning.
Should American workers be bracing for more job cuts from AI, and what can they do to prepare for the future?
AI is going to change every job, but you're not going to lose your job to an AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who uses AI. And so I would advise everyone to engage AI.
David, with those layoffs tonight at major American employers like UPS and Amazon, economists say that AI is helping companies cut their costs because the technology allows them to do more work with fewer people. David.
Potentially sweeping changes ahead. Elizabeth, thank you.
All right, Amazon. At least 14,000 jobs are gone. UPS, 48,000 cuts on the same day. Meta, Microsoft, Google, Intel all announced cuts earlier this year. Let me be really clear about what's happening here. This is not a tech recession. These companies are wildly profitable. Amazon's not cutting jobs because they're struggling. They're cutting jobs because they can. They overhired during the pandemic. Everyone was making money hand over fist, hiring like crazy, and now they're sobering up. And who pays the price for their mistakes? You do, the employees. But there's something else going on here that's even more important. AI is a huge part of this equation. Management is betting that they can do more with fewer people if they integrate AI properly. And honestly, they are probably right. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. Are you prepared for a world where your job, as it exists right now, might not exist in 5 years? Because that's the world we are heading into fast. And you have 2 choices. You can hope the layoffs won't happen to you, or you can start building skills and advantages that can't be automated. Skills that make you valuable regardless of what company you work for. Skills that give you options. That's the difference between being at the mercy of these decisions and being someone who can navigate them with grace and ease.
Recently, Amazon announced that they're laying off 30,000 employees. Why do you think that was the case? Was it because of AI or overhiring or any other reason?
What I would say is probably due to overhiring. When you talk about layoffs, like those are actual people, 30,000 or 16,000 or whatever that number is. It's like, that's how many people are affected. That's how many families are affected. And so super terrible situation. But I think ultimately there were like 100,000 corporate employees at the company when I left. If you really like squinted at it, like were those 100,000 people like strictly necessary? Amazon has a history of taking big bets, right? So the idea, at least in Jeff Bezos' time, was we would take a bunch of big bets. The ones that did really well, we would double down on. And then the ones that didn't do well, we should have the courage to cut those and then to move those resources into the bets that are doing well. I think with the layoffs, it's basically they didn't want to redistribute those resources into the other bets.
All right, so this guy's talking about Amazon's overhiring. He says when he left Amazon, there were about 100,000 corporate employees, and not all of them were necessary. Here's what he's really saying. Companies got drunk on cheap money during the pandemic. They hired way more people than they needed, and now they're cutting back to reality. But the reality they're cutting back to isn't the same as before, because now they have AI in the equation. They're not just cutting back to pre-pandemic levels. They're betting they can operate with even fewer people than before by leveraging technology. This isn't a temporary correction. This is a fundamental shift in how companies are operating. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, what do I do? That's the right question. What you don't do is just hope this doesn't affect you. What you do is start building advantages that are uniquely human, things AI can't replicate. Deep client relationships, strategic thinking, creative problem solving, the ability to use AI, the ability to synthesize information and make judgment calls. These are advantages. These are the things you need to be developing right now, not just skills. Advantages. Things that make you valuable in any market and in any context.
Today, I was laid off at Amazon. I am one of the 14,000 employees impacted. I was a senior social media manager in Amazon ads, and earlier this month, I actually celebrated my 1-year anniversary, or Imiversary as they like to call it. And it was the closest I've ever come to a dream role. I was working social media marketing and tech, something I would have dreamed about and wished for in college. I was flown out to work my first Cannes line in the south of France, of all places. I interviewed celebrities on the red carpet, some that I had fangirled over since I was a little kid. But most importantly, I worked at a globally recognizable company that I knew made my immigrant parents proud. And even my grandma knew what Amazon was because of the packages we'd get on our doorstep. And fast forward to today, it also actually is exactly 1 week from my birthday. I guess my present from Amazon just came a little bit early. But that's all to say, I am feeling all the feels. I feel really grateful for sure that I got to live out a corporate dream for a year. But I guess that's the thing about dreams. They shift and transform, and I believe that my next dream is out there waiting for me. I don't know what it looks like or what it'll be, but stay tuned because we'll figure it out together.
All right, so that video hits different. Senior social media manager at Amazon just celebrated her 1-year anniversary, dream role, made her immigrant parents proud, and then laid off a week before her birthday. This is the American dream story, right? Work hard, get good grades, land the prestigious company job, make your parents proud. That was the formula for generations, and it worked for them. But it's not applicable today in today's landscape anymore. That formula is broken. Her parents' generation could go to work for a big company and reasonably expect to stay there for 30 years, maybe even retire from there. That world is gone. The companies don't want you to operate that way anymore. The economy doesn't work that way anymore. And the heartbreaking part, she did everything right. She followed the playbook and it still didn't matter. This is why I talk so much about foundational value and time sovereignty. You can't build your life around a company's stability anymore because that stability does not exist for its people. You have to build it around your own capabilities, your own advantages, and your own vision for what you want, Not because companies are evil, but because this is just the reality of how they operate.
So I got laid off from Amazon a couple days ago, and I wasn't planning on talking about it because, to be honest, it just feels kind of embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie. And I know I shouldn't think about it that way because in my case, it wasn't performance related, at least what was told to me directly. But like, it just feels, yeah, I don't know. It just feels kind of sucky. But I also know I did the best that I could, and something that I was very adamant about while I was there was constantly asking my manager for feedback. And so I would always be like, this is what I've been doing so far. What do you think? Am I on the right path? And just always kind of gauging if I was doing well. And I always got good feedback. Yeah, you're doing good. So I'm trying to not take it so personally as if it's me and I wasn't performing well. But then again, I don't know how these things work. I don't know what's going on in the background, but to my face, I always got good feedback. But so even knowing that it was bigger than just me, I still feel kind of embarrassed. And I'm trying to change that because, that's not good for self-esteem purposes.
Got laid off from Amazon. Not performance related. She consistently asked her manager for feedback, always got positive reviews, and then gone. This is the thing people need to understand. Sometimes you can't predict when layoffs are coming. You might be the best performing person in your entire department, but if they decide to eliminate the whole department, none of that matters. Your performance reviews don't matter. Your dedication doesn't matter. How much you care doesn't matter in that moment. What matters is the spreadsheet, the numbers, the quarterly earnings call. I'm not saying this to depress you. I'm saying this because you need to understand the game that's actually being played. And once you understand it, you can start playing a different game entirely. Look, the current state of employment is scary. I get it. I talk to people every single day who are feeling this, and I don't think this trend is stopping anytime soon. In fact, I think it's about to get worse in the coming years. But here's what a lot of people miss. While millions of jobs are disappearing, opportunities are also being created at the same time. Different opportunities. Opportunities that don't fit the old corporate mode. The question is, are you going to be ready when they come? Because the old playbook, put your head down, work hard, climb the ladder, that's what got all these people laid off. They did everything right according to the old rules, and it still didn't matter. What I teach is a different approach. It's about building foundational advantages that are yours. Skills and capabilities that can't be automated or restructured away. And it's about time sovereignty, taking control of your time instead of selling it to a company that might not even want it tomorrow. It's about breaking the work model that's breaking you and rebuilding it in a way that actually works for the life that you want. If you think you need to prepare, but you don't know where to start, click the link below and let's have an honest conversation about your situation and whether or not I can help. Because one thing's for sure, hoping the layoffs won't happen to you is not a strategy. Building advantages that make you valuable regardless of what happened, that is a strategy. So let's talk.